Cool, you guys. Well, first of all, thank you so much for taking time out of your day on a Sunday to be here. I can almost guarantee you that everyone here, you have something in like all in common, like this growth mentality, this love for learning. And I've had the pleasure of meeting Dan. We met only a couple months ago, right?
Yeah, probably.
And you live in Denver, and I live in Denver, and we have some mutual friends that do some podcasting. I actually do a lot of real estate stuff, and they connected me because of Dan's mission of helping people. And so when I heard his story, I was like, whatever I can do to serve, and I want you guys to know all this. Like, you have something very, very special in Dan. Like the fact that he takes time and like wants to mentor, and like trust me, like I've spent time with him, like his heart is really, really good. And so I'm a product of people like you, Dan, pouring into me, taking time out of your day. And I'm here because of the many people that went before me. And so what I'll do is I'll share a little bit of my story, share a little bit about what we do at Better Wealth, and then I want to take questions. And then if there's anything that happens after the fact, feel free to reach out to me, and I will make time to help all you guys, because I see myself and you guys, because I've always been into money, and it really went back to this concept of making an impact. And I will say this: if we get this money thing figured out, we can live more intentionally, and we can just help so many more people. And at the core, I think Ben, you said this. At the core, it's like what really motivates me is the significance of having money, of having a platform to serve people, because life is really short. We're all young, but when you think about it, if we live to 100, some of us will, some of us won't. Most of us have already lived 1/5 or 1/4 of our life, and it went really quick. So that's just like a whenever we want to procrastinate. So just think about the preciousness of life. But my story in a nutshell, you guys. And if you have any questions, you can interrupt. Feel free to interrupt at any time. But my story in a nutshell was I grew up in Wisconsin. I'm the oldest of 6 kids. My dad is a PhD molecular biologist, and I didn't get any of his genes apparently because I can't even spell biology. Okay, so I wanted to be a doctor in 8th grade because I just saw that they made the most money, and again I had limited belief like I wanted to do something as it relates to making money, but I didn't really know exactly how money works. And then I took biology 1, and I was like, I don't think this is in my genes to be a doctor. And so I just started, like, I've always been into money, but I really didn't know what I wanted to do. Also, you guys, what you got to know about me is I'm dyslexic. Reading is still very, very difficult for me. And I was always very short for my age. And being the oldest of 6 kids, my younger sister was taller than me. And she let everyone know when I was 12, 13, that she was younger, but she looked a lot older. And so I grew up with some insecurities. One of the things that my mom told me at a young age that like impacted my life greatly, she said, Caleb, the things that you can't control, like your height, and I'm sure everyone here, you have some things that you may not like, but you can't control it. And for me, I didn't like that I was super small, but I didn't have any control over that. And so she just said, learn to laugh about it and don't focus on it. But the things that you can control, like my reading, like I can't control dyslexia, but I can control the work ethic that I put into that. I have a moral obligation to go all in. And it was that in that moment that I realized that most things in life we can have control over. Obviously, there's things, and this is actually a really interesting time because with COVID, there's things that we can't control, but we can control how we respond, how we show up. And so that theme is kind of a big theme in just my entire life, and what I want to encourage every one of you guys, because we are all young. We have our whole life in front of us. The fact that you know what house hacking is, I mean, I'm pretty sure all of you guys could teach me something about house hacking. The fact that you're even thinking about money, the fact that you guys are throwing out the word impact, like that's unbelievable, you guys. Like you guys are so wealthy beyond wealthy. And I don't care anything about your money. It's just the mindset. So I started getting like that growth mindset at 12, 13 years old. At 15, when I was, I believe, Chase, when I was your age, I started working at a chicken farm. Now, I don't know if there's any vegans on this call. If there is, I apologize in advance, but I actually gutted chickens for my first job. And let's just say I have an appreciation for a chicken sandwich more than most. And I started making $1 per chicken. So I'm 15 years old. I'm getting my temps. I end up getting my driver's license. So I worked there for 2.5 years. I'm making money. And I read the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. Have you guys read that book? Okay. If you've not, please put that on your reading list. And The Richest Man in Babylon is like the short parable book, just talking about literally just back in the day, Babylonian days, like how, like core principles of how anyone could be wealthy. And then I started reading other books. I read books by Jim Collins on leadership and business. I read Robert Kiyosaki, which I'm sure most of you have read or at least heard about. And I just gained like this understanding that, and I couldn't really articulate it at the time, but I understood that if I could figure this money thing out, everything in life would get better. And all my friends that were making even more money than me, because I was only working part-time when I first started, they were making more money, but they were spending it on dumb stuff. Like they were all into cars, stereos. And so they were making money. They went out to eat lunch in town. I packed my own lunch, and I'm like, if my mom will pack my lunch and it's free, like I had a pretty good gig back in the day. And so I've always been a saver, and reading books that like got me to think like, okay, I can save money, but my money can actually start working for me. And I started reading up on stock trading, option trading, and started reading about real estate. I've never invested in real estate, but like it just got my mind open to that. Started getting introduced to entrepreneurship, because even though I've heard of entrepreneurship, it's not necessarily like a ton of people. Like when people say, what do you want to go to school for? It's not like entrepreneurship is like encouraged. It's not that it's not encouraged. It's just, I didn't know much about it. And so what I realized was I wanted to do something in the money space. And again, at 16 years old, I didn't even know if I was smart enough to get into college. I worked hard. I actually started doing some college classes in high school. I was homeschooled, so it was kind of unique. I had a little bit more time to do like some community college classes and some AP tests. And so I worked on that. I also worked at the chicken farm. And when I was 17 years old, and I really want you guys to get all this, because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I met a guy, and his name was Dick Judy. And Dick Judy used to work at the university. It ran their business development or business management department. And then he was also on a bank's board. And I met with him. And guys, at 17 years old, all of you have more confidence and courage than I did. My mom and I created a list on a notebook of questions that I was going to ask him. I was so nervous to meet. I'd never met him, and I know he was a big deal. I was so nervous that when I went to the restaurant, I forgot to turn my car off. It was in Wisconsin, super cold, and I left my car on the whole time because my mind was focused on the meeting and not on just practical life. And so I got in the meeting, and within 5 minutes, Dick Judy totally changed my life. He like lit up. He asked me questions. He got me to laugh. And I realized, number one, that the people that we know could be the most valuable thing in our life. A lot of people will talk about the importance of net worth. And I think a lot of us know the importance of cash flow. But regardless, there's a phrase of your network is your net worth. And I really do believe that, you guys, especially if you're under the age of 40, that is for sure true. And I bet it's also true after the fact, but it's like, I would spend all my time and money getting to know people. And so one phone call, he got me a job at the bank that he was on. Like, he was on a board of a bank, and at 17 years old, he got me a job at Community First Bank, which ironically, I'm drinking tea from a Community First Bank cup. And so again, 17-year-old Caleb, now I'm probably like 5'2", walk into the bank and learn to be a teller. I'm just throwing this out there. Learning, if you can work at a credit union or a bank as a teller, you will learn a lot of things. I'll tell you a couple things that I've learned. Number one, you just learn how to talk to people. Number two, a teller has a lot of information. I knew people's social security numbers. I knew how much they made. I knew how much money they had in the bank and balance. And it's interesting because money is like this really taboo thing that nobody wants to talk about. And at a young age, I just like talked to business owners or talked to people, and I had all their information. I knew more about their money than some their spouses did in most cases. It was just really, really bizarre. And so I just gained like this confidence of, number one, meeting with people, but then number two, just confidence with money. And then you just learn a lot of different transactions, what a cashier's check is, and just different things on how money works. And then I also was allowed to be in the meetings, our weekly meetings, where I heard updates on the commercial loan department, the investment department, consumer loan department. And it was just really interesting. The other thing is our bank was a community bank. And so I got really connected in the community as well. And so I just was learning a ton. And one of the guys that was running our not investment department, our commercial loan department, his name was Brad. He took me to a networking event. And this is another thing. I'm sharing you a story that I've never really shared before, because I want to give you context. Is when I was like 18 years old, I went to my first networking event. Now, networking event it was put on in our community, and like I was the only high school / college student that went there. So I stuck out like a sore thumb. I didn't even have business cards, so I drew my name and number and email on the back of his business cards. And I just went to the networking event. Right when we got into the building, he said, "Caleb, you can't be my shadow, and don't drink alcohol. Those are the 2 rules." And so I was like on my own, and I realized again real quickly how awesome networking was. Like I was super scared at first, but then when I started meeting a couple people, and I realized, man, this is easy, number one. And I can meet so many people. And here's a hack if you're young. And I wonder if this even works if you're not young, but here's a hack. Ask a successful person, ask them if you can treat them out to lunch. And I promise you, there's a good chance that they'll probably even pay. They'll say yes, and they'll most likely pay. And I learned that hack. And so I got a lot of free lunches and became one of the most connected people in our town, because there's no high school or college students doing what I was doing. Again, thinking outside the box, but I realized how easy it was and how very few people would actually email the CEO of a company. Like if any of you guys email me and want some of my time, I'm super busy, but I'm going to give back, because I see myself, and that's very common. A lot of people want to give back to the next generation. And so I just used that, and I started getting offered a lot of different jobs. I decided to stay at the bank, even though I was only making $8 an hour. And I said no to jobs that I could make $15, $16 an hour, because I saw the bank as a place that I could gain a ton of value. And this is another thing, that whether it's school, whether it's being here, find areas that you can really create value, because at the end of the day, between $8 an hour versus 12 or 15 really is not going to make a huge difference over your life. But learning how to create value to triple or quadruple your income someday, or give you a relationship that will give you access to learn specialized knowledge, has been like everything. I also read a couple books, Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Think and Grow Rich, were 3 books that have really shaped a lot when I was at the bank, and just helped me understand more about people and more about just life in general. Also at that time, there was a guy named John Noel, and I actually have an interview with him on my podcast. He's probably worth 600 million. He's started multiple companies. His last company he sold to Warren Buffett, and he lives in our town, and he's by far the most successful person that I could ever imagine getting to know. And so I emailed his assistant and just asked if I could have some time on his calendar. And 2 months later, I get 30 minutes with him. And in those 30 minutes, I talk about my why, I talk about why I want to learn from him. And I ask him to mentor me. And since then, he's been someone that I can call on and get mentored by. And so it's just, again, if there's people that you want to learn from, maybe just reach out and just make sure to like talk about why this is important, why you want to learn from them. Because one of the greatest compliments you can give someone is to ask their question, be genuinely interested. We think that's a burden. And the reason I'm telling you this is like, I've talked to a lot of people my age. They're like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to burden them. I'm telling you, if done authentically, you're going to actually not be a burden. You're going to be an encouragement. So fast forward, you guys, at the age of 19 years old, I'm well loved at the bank. I'm also working super hard. I'm going to school for business and finance at University of Stevens Point. So one thing that I was really grateful for was I got to go to school in the same town that I lived in. So I lived at home, went to school full time, and also worked pretty much full time as well, and was very involved in some other campus ministry stuff. And I was also did a entrepreneurship club on campus. So I was quite busy. But when I was 19 years old, the guy that was running our investment department took another job. And at 19 years old, you guys, I had the opportunity to take over a bank's investment department. And that was also like very terrifying. And I like, on one hand, I was really excited because my dream of helping people with money like came true. And I was still in college, and I had the second largest office at our bank, and was given a bank cell phone and computer. And so like on one hand, I was like, this is crazy. And on another hand, if you can imagine like the fear that there was a lot going on, and I really didn't know a ton. Like I knew more about money than the average person, but I didn't really know a ton. And so have you guys watched Simon Sinek's talk, Start With Why? Okay. If not, please do. I probably watched that talk about 40 times. And Simon Sinek talks about, and he draws this circle, and he pretty much talks about people don't care what you do until they know why you do it. And he draws a circle, and he draws this being the what. Everyone really knows what they do. You're a college student, you're a high school student, you're learning this. And then he draws a smaller circle within the what circle, and that's the how. Some people know how they do what they do, but very few people know why they do what they do. And if there's anything, you guys, that you get from like me being here, it's really pursue what that why is. Why do you get up every day? Why does making an impact really mean anything? Why is saving money important? Why do you want to be significant or successful? Because for me, my initial why was because I didn't want to be a failure. And now I've realized more and more, like, life is extremely short, and I want to impact people. And so I made a mission statement for myself, which is actually interesting. I brought this down just to show you guys. This mission statement was made when I was in college and working at the bank, and someone made this for me for one of my birthdays. And it reads, to help people see and reach their highest potential. So for me, I realized that, yes, this stuff was hard. College was tough, like meeting with people, there's a lot of stress, but I realized, like, I want to get up every single day, show up powerfully in the world, because I want to help people not only see what like some of their God-given potential, but I would love to be a person to help them realize that, so that they can have a greater impact on other people. And again, I couldn't articulate that at 1920, but like I could sense, like, this is something that this is like deeper. And so every client that came in, mainly because I didn't really know what to tell them, every client I came in, we did the Simon Sinek circle, and I articulated that I was here to serve them, and I might not know everything, but I was going to find the answer. And so from there, you guys, I ended up graduating college. I continued to work at the bank. And another thing that I do is, I was like, I wonder if this, like, what happened locally with working with people, I wonder if I could do that nationally. So I essentially just started reaching out to people that I want to learn from about money. And most people, I think because they felt sorry for me, they were like, I would love to help you. And so I ended up traveling the country and learning from multiple experts. Russ Morgan, who actually introduced me to Dan, lives in Birmingham, when I was 20 years old, guys. And I don't necessarily recommend this. I'm just saying this is what I did. He's a guy that I wanted to learn from. I, on LinkedIn, reached out to him. And on our first call, I kind of made up, like, there was a conference in Birmingham that I was thinking about. And I was essentially said, I want to go to this conference. Could I stay with you and your family? Because I didn't want to, I'm still cheap, but I didn't want to spend money on a hotel. And he had to talk to his wife, and they let me stay at their house. And I shadowed him for 2 days, and I went to this 3-day workshop with him, actually. And that was probably one of the most pivotal weeks of my life. And so stories like that, I could spend a whole hour talking about people that I've reached out, and they let me stay with them. They passed on, like, they would teach me, and it just changed my life. And then from there, when I graduated college, and ironically, I graduated college a year early, just because of, my mom's amazing and she really helped me navigate college and high school. And so I had a lot of credits going in. And so I graduated college early. And I remember sitting at the bank. I was set. I had a corner office. I could make $50,000 to $60,000 a year right out of college. But I remember looking at my mission statement and just having a realization that like I'm gonna die someday, and I don't want to regret anything. And I was just like, you know what? I've learned things about money that are like so impactful, and I'm realizing that people are not able to live there intentionally because they don't understand how to use money as a tool. And so I ended up leaving the bank, starting Better Wealth. And, it just started with me. And then I had two other people that kind of helped me co-found. One of them actually did die of cancer, which is a whole nother story and has given me just an appreciation for what we do, but just also just has given me a wake-up call in life. And the other guy, his name is Dan, and he really runs the operations of Better Wealth. And so we went from just me. We moved out of the bank, and I cut ties in a really good way and gave 6 months notice. So that was done well. And I still lived at home because saving money is really important to me. And I got an office below a Papa John's, and I talked the landlord to giving me $250 rent in the basement, and for 6 months, and then $350 the next 6 months. And I hustled. From 7 a.m. to 11, 12 p.m. every day, built Better Wealth, end up self-publishing a book called The And Asset, which I know Ben has read, and came out with a podcast because I knew a ton of people. So I was like, man, if I do a podcast, I could start, I'm not very smart, but I know a lot of people that are smart. And so I can create a platform to share that. And then it's been growing ever since then. And just the last 2 weeks, we brought on 3 people. So our team's up to 16 and counting. And we are essentially a virtual financial planning like company, I would say. And we have clients in 46 states, and we're really big on education, but then we're also really big on like a coach and an implementer, because I'm realizing that a lot of people might know what to do, but they don't know how to do it. And a lot of people don't even know where to begin. And so I guess I'll share this last thing with you, and then we can open up for questions. The 4 principles that we teach at Better Wealth, and that every one of you can apply to your life. And if you can apply this to your life, you guys, you will literally have the framework and the foundation to build whatever you want to build, whether it's a real estate empire, a business empire, a successful career, an ability to impact people. Like I'm telling you, like this is easy. And yet a lot of people get into tactics, but don't understand the whole picture. So step number 1, and you'll want to take notes if you can. So step number 1 is having clarity. When I would ask people at the bank, why they wanted to do what they wanted to do, most people, you guys, were nearing retirement and couldn't tell me why. They couldn't tell me why it even mattered. They couldn't tell me what they would do if money wasn't an issue. They couldn't tell me if they had $10 million in the bank, what they would be doing. And so one of the first questions that I want you guys to be able to answer is, why does this even matter? And what result are you looking for? I talk about ROR being return on result versus being rate of return. And the reason why you want to get really clear on results is there's going to be a lot of amazing things that you get introduced to. But if you're not aligned with what's important to you, you could be like a floating ice cube just being pushed all the way around, because you're doing what the market wants you to do. You're doing what your parents want you to do. You're doing what a lot of people want you to do. And again, there's wisdom in all that, but there's also wisdom in understanding who you are and what you want. And that's okay if you don't know. I didn't know when I was 15, 16 years old, but I also didn't have someone that straight up, told me this. And so I just would encourage you to start thinking about it. And one of the things that you can do is, if money didn't matter at all, what would you be spending your life on? So number 1, clarity, and make sure that you're getting crystal clear on the results that you want. Ben, you articulated it super well with impact. What does that mean? And if you get clear on that, dude, you're wealthier than 99% of Americans because you have clarity on that. Step number 2 is about efficiency. Now, if I made a guess, a lot of you, and I could be wrong, but a lot of you probably don't have a ton of debts and assets. You might. But when we look at efficiency, I'm looking at 3 categories: cash flow, assets, and debts. Most of America has a ton of debts, no assets, and all their cash flow is being eaten up by lifestyle. And so one of the things that we can start with is tracking your cash flow is a habit that is just really beneficial. How much money's coming in? Where's it going? If all you do is track it, you're going to start being able to better control it and being way more self-aware of where your money's going. Your assets. I know you guys know what an asset is. How I describe an asset, there's 2 ways to think of an asset. Number 1, it's the traditional way, is anything that's worth something. Robert Kiyosaki defines an asset as having buying something that creates cash flow, and so you own something, and then by owning that, that's putting money back in your pocket. Start looking at what that is, and if you don't have assets, think about what the best asset you could own that could help you. So if a lot of you guys know the power of real estate. Real estate's an amazing asset because of a couple things. Number 1, it appreciates, it grows in value, it creates cash flow. You can usually use leverage to acquire it. And there's also some tax advantages. So real estate's an amazing asset. I chose business because I love business. I love people. And I realize that there's a lot of opportunity. And so business for me is the thing that I'm investing in. Some of you guys, it might be index funds. For some of you, it might be some alternatives. And so just be thinking about other assets. And what you want to do is you just want to be like, ask yourself the question, is this asset that I'm going for or do I own? Is this best helping me live the life that I want to live? Here's another thing that a lot of people get caught up in is they buy depreciating assets. Now, I could be hypocritical because I have a nice car, but a lot of people put all their money into an asset that goes down in value. So yes, is it technically an asset on a balance sheet? It is, but it's growing down in value. So that is a way to start doing an audit in your life and saying, what do I own? And like, how would I, like, is it a good asset or is it something that's going down in value? The third thing is debt. And debt, here's the thing is debt is not good or it's not bad. It's all about how you use it. And there's a lot of misinformation about debt. You guys, what I'll say is this. Think about the outcome. And in my book, I just talk about debt. You just have to look at the cost of capital. And so if debt costs you 4% and you're able to get real estate at 8%, you now use a 4% debt to acquire an asset that I would think would have a lot of benefits. Getting debt to do things like getting credit card debt at 21% to buying cars or going on vacation and stuff is probably a use of bad debt. And so there's a lot of different ways to analyze debt. A way to think about it from a cash flow perspective is to just do what I call the debt scorecard. And it's essentially if you take your full balance and divide it by your minimum payment, you're going to get some number. And if that number is less than 100, then you might want to consider paying that off, especially if it's under 50. But if that number is higher, then that it might be a debt that's creating cash flow, and it might be a good debt. So if you guys have any questions on that, you can email me and I can give you some resources on how we show people good debt versus bad debt. But the second principle is all about efficiency. You want to be able to look within and look at your cash flow, your assets and debts, and make sure that you're creating an optimal way to live. Step number 3 is all about consistency. If there's one thing that is a common theme with successful people is they're consistent in the little things. And over time, it changes their life and what they're doing. And so you can be consistent in 2 things, compound growth and control. And I'm really big on this because I believe that you guys are your greatest asset. And the number one thing that you should be investing in right now is yourself. And I think you all are getting a thumbs up on this category. And so when you're thinking about your time, when you're thinking about your expertises that you're learning, and when you think about your money, think about it in the form of 2 things. Think about it in the form of 60 years from now. But then also think about it as a form of like, what can you do with your money today or your expertise today and through like control or whatever. And so what this looked like for me is I realized that money today over your lifetime, like if we could do this because I'm a nerd, but like we could take a future value calculation. You take $10,000 over 4, 5, 6% over your lifetime. That money's going to grow a ton. But you guys are all here because you know the importance of house hacking and other benefits. So there's also benefits of being able to control your money. And so just always think long-term and make sure that you're consistent and you're not giving up long-term or short-term. And so continue to just think about your money and be consistent in that. And then finally, the fourth area is how you use your time and your money. And always be thinking about using your time and your money in ways that eventually that will help you live the life that you want to live. I asked a good friend of mine the other day what he would do if he had $10 million. And he said he would give almost all of it away. And then he asked me what I would do. And it's just so interesting because I want to help people as well. But I see that $10 million as a tool that when used could be put into other assets or businesses that could have a more sustainable and a greater impact than just giving that money directly. Same thing that I want to do with you guys. If you have clarity on where you want to go, what you should be doing with your time and your money should ultimately be to back up the life that you want. And that could be investing in real estate, business, or whatever. And a lot of people don't actually use their time and money in a way that best aligns with where they want to go. And so that's like the overview. And I know I did a lot of talking, but I wanted to give you guys just a little context of my story and kind of the framework of clarity, efficiency, consistency, and use. And if you guys can have that framework of thinking, you guys are going to be ahead of most people that want to be wealthy because you guys will have a framework of how to think about that.
Awesome. Caleb, thanks for going through your story and your mindset around all that stuff. Dropping big time bombs of wisdom for all of us. And I learned a few things too about your history and getting to know you even better myself. So I definitely want to open up for questions. I know they have some questions for you. And so I think the way to do this best, guys, is you can physically raise your hand, or there's a way to virtually do it too. And then I'll just say your name and you can shoot Caleb a question, and we'll just do that for a while.
I have a question for Caleb. I guess for like us, how could we best plan, like even if it's in the next 6 months or in the next like 5 years? I guess you have any like suggestions as to, I guess, the clarity piece that you mentioned, maybe how we can plan where we want to go.
Yeah, and you're going to school for business, correct?
Yes.
And how would you answer the clarity piece? Like if I asked you, if money wasn't an issue at all, what would you find fulfillment in?
That's a big question.
It is a big question. Yeah.
I feel like part would be like how I mentioned before, is to, I guess, also help other kids like myself in my position even now, how they can, I guess, find their purpose too.
Yeah.
I guess that's part of it.
Here's one thing that I did intuitively, and now I do it like intentionally, is like I always looked at people that I admired and tried to learn from them. So what I would do, to answer your question, the next 5 years, you're 20, right? Yeah. So you guys it's like dumb being on here. You guys are so young, which is so amazing. So you're going to be 25 5 years from now. If you spent those 5 years reaching out to people, learning from people, and continuing to just ask your questions, you're going to be so far ahead. And then the habit of saving is so important, because a lot of people, like, we don't save as a country. And so if you could save for a purpose someday, you might not know what that is. It might take you 5 years, and guess what? You're still going to be young. And if you could meet with people, because I guarantee you, if you guys were all intentional and reached out to people, you'll just remember me in 5 years. That's all I'm saying. I say that sincerely. And so one of the best things that you can do, if you don't know exactly what you want to do, best thing you can do is meet people and reach out, because again, a lot of your net worth is going to be a result of your network. And I just would, like, everyone has what I call the student advantage. I still have the student advantage. I'm not a student, but I look like a student. So I still can get people to mentor me and reach out to me and help me. And they still will do, like, Dan, you still have people to do that. It's just a lot easier when you're young. Like, you just have an even more, like, you have a more advantage than me, and even a greater advantage than Dan.
Yeah, I tell them that quite a bit, Caleb, and I hope it sinks in that when you're that young, 20 and below, I think people will go out of their way to make time for them because they are so young, and they admire that that ambition and that drive at a young age, and I think people are even more willing to help young people than, you know, if one of you emailed a potential mentor and I did in my 40s, they're going to help you way more before they help me. So use that to your advantage and do the things Caleb's doing. And Caleb, I know their backstories a little bit more. A lot of them are doing exactly that. And
they wouldn't be here if they weren't. So like it's just more of an encouragement. Like, Chase, I didn't know anything when I was 15 years old. I just got introduced to this stuff. I mean, it's unbelievable that you guys are all here, but it's amazing.
Yeah. Any more questions?
Ben, I love your smile, by the way, man.
Thank you.
And I love that your dad poked his head in for a minute. I'm assuming that.
Oh my gosh. I was like, Dad. So I have two questions for you, if that's okay.
Yep.
Awesome. So the first question is, you said you have a whole laundry list of things to do. And we were talking about this earlier. How do you handle time management? I would say right now, I have a lot of time, so I'm managing it, just fine, right? But I know that, even just 5 years from now, you said 5 years from now, I'm, full time, I'll have, who knows if I have a family and stuff. How do you handle all the stuff that you want to get done, being efficient with your time?
Yes. Yeah. It's interesting. One great question to ask people is what their favorite books are, or what book they're reading right now. The book that I am reading, and I read this morning, is a book called Essentialism. Have any of you guys read that? Okay. It's all about time management. Why? Because this is the number one thing I'm lacking in my life right now. Because I'm realizing that, like, we have 16 people on our team, and what we're trying to do, we're producing, I'm in the process of producing a documentary that I want to get on Netflix. We're coming out with another book, and we're making some pretty big partnership deals. And then I also am the face of our company. And so got a massive issue as it relates to time management. And so one of the things that I try to do, and so I'm going to tell you this, and I'm also going to say this is something I'm working on, is number one, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People talks about you can be efficient with processes, but you really can't be efficient with people if you want to be effective human being. Because no one wants to be if you're a human, I want to be effective with you, which might mean me hopping on here and spending time with you guys when I could do other things, because I really care about being here and about helping. And so for me, number one, I'm clear on what I want to do. Number two, I have a full-time assistant, and I don't check my email. This would not work for you guys. So I'm not saying still check your emails. But for me, I realized some of the distractions, like social media, checking my emails. Like I found myself doing what Stephen Covey talked about, like working on the urgent. But if I actually look at 3 or 4 years from now, they weren't really important. And so I really try to focus on what the most important thing is. I write 3 things down per day. And I'm not perfect at this, but I try to accomplish those 3 things before I get into like the daily task. And again, I think Tony Robbins said this, a lot of us underestimate what we can do, and I'll change this. I think he said what you can do in a year. And I think you overestimate what you can do in 1 year and underestimate what you can do over your lifetime over 10 years. Just think about that per day. I can't think that far ahead, right? I way overestimate what I can do in 1 day, but I think I underestimate what I can do in a week. And if I stick to 3 priorities a day and really focus on that, that's huge. And then also with our company, we have a daily call, and it's just like an accountability call, because I think most of us are lacking in that one area, is accountability. And so I would find whatever you want to do, get clear on what you want, and then figure out a way for you to be kept accountable to that. And that usually helps. Great question, by the way.
Yeah, and that was a great response. I'm taking notes over here, so this is very helpful for me. Thank you.
Awesome. What was your other question?
My second question. Yeah. So my second question for you, if I can remember it, is so you went to school, you got a degree in business, correct? With
Yes.
With finance, business finance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And so you ended up, by the time you graduated, you ended up starting your own business. So you never actually, I mean, you did use the degree, but you didn't use it to get a normal job like most people do. So that's taking, not the norm. I just want to, I think I know your answer, but I want to ask, do you wish you hadn't gone to college? Do you have any regrets about that? Or can you see that getting that degree really mattered and
Yes.
made an impact?
Great question. So here's what would have happened. So looking back, I'm in a lot more weddings because I went to college than if I didn't. Okay. But looking back, I didn't learn a ton in college, but here's what I did gain is if I didn't go to college, I would have had the pressure of wanting to get that career and make money. I was only making $8 an hour, and that was fine because I had the vision. So being in college for those 3 years gave me the freedom to go out and learn from other people. And, I gained a ton in those 3 years. I learned a ton in those 3 years. It may have not been in the classroom, but it was because I had that mindset that really gave me the freedom. So was college one of those things that was like necessary for me? No. And I don't really have any regrets because I used that time to meet other people. I would have regrets if I was like most college students and didn't do that and just assumed that just being in school, I would be like 3-4 years from that, like I would have a degree and I would be able to become successful. Because even if, and I want you to hear this, even if I got a job, I knew I was friends with all the CEOs. Like I literally, like I'm, like unless I go to jail, you guys, I will be able to, I have a lot of job security because I could go work for a lot of my friends. And it's always easier to build relationships when you don't need something. So as a student, if you meet with people, they would love to meet with you. The moment that you're looking for a job, it's different. You'll still have an advantage, but like the moment that you need something, it's just a different, there's difference there. So so I hope that answers your question. I sometimes can be critical of college because I see just a lot of people wasting their time. But I also do think it can be an amazing time to learn, to meet people. And I also have made some amazing friends that I consider lifelong friends because of that. So that's how I answer your question. That's a good question, by the way. And just really be intentional with every day. And I also didn't have as much confidence as I do now. And so there was that desire to have that degree. And now if I was looking for a job right now, the degree would not be what gets me in the door. It would be life experience. And would I put it on the resume? I would.
Awesome.
Wow. I absolutely love that. Thank you.
Are you thinking about dropping out of school?
I think I've gone back and forth like a million times. I don't think I'm going to be dropping out only because I'm not going to be going into debt to get my degree. But even just the thought of spending 3-4 years all that time and energy when I could be working full time and doing this and that. Like, it's been eating me, you know, inside. And like, I know there's valuable things in college. I also have heard and understand that the most important part for doing business at college is actually the connections and the learning experience. And so that's been something that I've been weighing back and forth for quite a while now. So I make sure to ask every single guest that comes on here and everybody that I'm connected with. I'm like, hey, you know, what's your opinion? I'm not going to just follow what you say, but I'm really trying to, you know, fill
Yeah.
the room on
Yeah,
that.
that's amazing, man.
So,
That's amazing.
thank you.
Next question.
Is it okay if I pop in here and ask a question?
Oh yeah, man.
Okay. Well, so I mean, like you telling your story was actually like so awesome for me because it sounds like a lot like me and kind of where I where I come from. I've always been kind of a money guy. I've always wanted to make a lot of money. And, you know, I went through the same period where I was like, oh, I want to be a doctor because I was attracted to salary. And I went and did an internship because like my dad's a doctor. So I went and did an internship at his office, and I quickly realized that's not what I want to do. So I like, and I'm also very motivated by helping people. So you talking about that was like the cherry on top because like my clarity for me is like, the reason I really want to make it like a ton of money is just so I can give back to the people who helped me get there. Two of my biggest idols are Elon Musk and Bill Gates. Like Bill Gates built this huge fortune, and just, you know, he's all about philanthropy, and like Elon Musk.
He's moving to Austin. Is Elon moving to Austin or
yeah,
Texas?
Yeah. He just bought the land for his new factory that's going to manufacture the Cybertruck down here. So might look at like getting a job.
So I have a Model 3. So I'm a
you
big
do? Nice.
Tesla, Elon Musk fan. Yeah.
Nice. Go waitress. Sorry. No, but like my dad has a Model 3 as well. My dream car is the Roadster. So like, so like that's what I like work toward. But my you know, that's kind of where I'm headed. I want to do what they're doing, and I want to give back and, you know, get through as much philanthropy as I can. So like right now I'm building this platform called Credit Investor. I want to give I feel like there's not enough financial education like with school, because like I'm in high school and I'm friends with so many people who just go and blow their money on all this stuff that like doesn't matter, and they're so, I mean, like I don't want to call them uneducated, but they just and they can't help it. They just don't know like things about how to manage money and stuff. And I want to help people get away from that and kind of help out with social mobility as much as I can. So I am building this platform called Credit Investor, where I'm trying to like fill that gap of financial education. And I was wondering, like, how did you get your first exposure? Because like I'm struggling with like creating engaging content and, you know, like just getting out there, because like it's not really interesting for people my age to sit there and watch stuff about it. So like, how did you get that initial exposure and kind of jumpstart where you're headed?
That's a great question. Are you like on do you have a YouTube channel?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And how I'm gonna gain a subscriber right now. What do you talk about?
Well, so it's super new. I just started this in the last few months. But I kind of talk about just like super base. I'm very new to like money, so I don't have like a ton of like education myself, but I just try to simplify things and make it really easy to understand. So I'm like talking about how you can get a credit card under the age of 18 to start building your credit score. You know, like the beginner's guide to the stock market, you know, like I just kind of explaining things like that. Like I'm a side hustle guy. So I made a video about like top 10 side hustles you can do like during quarantine to make some extra money. And like, I plan to kind of shift my content, like as I learn more, and just like spread that knowledge with other people. So it's kind of a progressive thing for me and for other people. Sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you. I can like very faintly hear you, but. Is anybody else having a hard time hearing him? I can't hear anything.
Yeah, I think he's working on it.
Okay, got it. Sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was my phone thing, but
He'll figure it out. He'll figure it out.
all right.
Good question, Ethan. I'm interested in his answer as well.
Yeah, I'm super interested.
While he's figuring that out, it's 6:30 right now, so and we normally cut it off. I feel like you guys might have one or two more questions, so we'll probably do a couple more after this, and then probably good.
All right.
Backup plan. All right.
Love having a nice setup that doesn't, so first of all, Ethan, if you could chat me your YouTube channel, I'd love to check it out. Here's what I'll say. I don't think I've had that piece of content that have helped me go viral yet. Literally, the reason we've grown our business is solely off of relationships. And I have a YouTube channel, Better Wealth.
Yeah.
One or two videos have over 1,000 views. And so for you, I mean, documenting your journey into knowledge is huge.
Yeah.
And also consistency. I haven't been doing YouTube very long, but I'd put out a video almost every day. And I'm paying somebody full time to come to Denver to live with us and vlog our journey. I believe so much in documenting and really sharing. You don't have to be an expert. You're not an expert, but you can share. And you're going to start finding people that align with that maybe intimidate. Like Dan could say the same thing that you say, but they just learn it from you because they can relate with you way more than you can relate with Dan. So I think the big thing is just consistency. And then I think a lot of people are lacking strategy. And this was my problem when I first started. I didn't really know what I wanted. At first I wanted, whoever said Ben, Gary, I'm a big Gary Vee fan. So one of the things that I just started putting content out, and I learned as I went. It's kind of the advice I gave. Is it Catalina? Did I say your name?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just sometimes you just you're going to learn as you go, but the consistency is what's going to put you on top. And if I remember correctly, you're 16, right?
Yes, sir.
I didn't post my first video till I was 22.
Yeah.
I wish I would have documented my journey of being at the chicken. Dude, that would be so valuable.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if I documented being at the bank, being 19 years old, being clueless?
Yeah.
I didn't. I wish I did. And so that would be the big thing. And then also that and relationships, because there's going to be one thing that hits and that's going to put you on the map. But if you don't have the strategy and infrastructure, it's really not going to matter. Another book, you guys, is called Smart Cuts. That's a book I wish I would have read at your guys' age. It's essentially how to cut in the front of the line. And there's different ways. It's not super long, and it's a great book.
I'll look into that. Can you say the name again so I can write it down? Smart Cuts, is that what you said? Okay. All right, I'll put that on my list. Thank you.
I'm going to subscribe to your channel. So
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, we can maybe keep Caleb 5 or 10 more minutes. So a couple more questions. I think I saw Ben raise your hand.
I was just wondering, Caleb, so quick question. So I heard from, I don't know if you know of him, but Grant Cardone, in one of his videos I saw, he said you need to not look at so many different people. And I think that's kind of an issue that we sometimes have is we see a whole bunch of different strategies, either in real estate or business, and a whole bunch of different icons or mentors like Dan Locke, all these different people. What's your advice kind of on just gearing on to one person or one or two and just really sticking on that? Because I think one of the issues I have is sometimes I get on one thing, I'm like super focused on that, but then I see something else or somebody else, and you start following like 15 different people who are doing it a little bit differently.
Yep.
And so you're trying to consume all those different type of strategies and understanding those.
Yep.
So
I can
yeah, I'm just
relate.
wondering.
Actually, for me, it's business marketing. There's so many people, and the fact is, if you just bounce around, you just lose all this. Like, it's hard to get momentum. What kind of thing are you hoping to like really gain? Because the tough thing about answering that when you're young is there is benefits of learning from a lot of people. But when you have clarity, like if you say, this is what I want, then you want to find the expert, and then you want to stick with them and learn. But you may get this is what I want wrong. And so so don't beat yourself up. Like the fact that you're learning from people like Gary Vee, like, oh my goodness, like Grant drives me a little bit nuts on how he communicates, but he has some good points too. So what kind of thing are you hoping to learn?
I think the biggest thing is I really like the 4-Hour Workweek book, really becoming like remote and being able to work on your business instead of work inside of it. And for me, like by the time I'm 30, I want to be able to have $5,000 in income passively and creating systems for that, because I want to be able to travel. Like I just think that's so awesome. But also I want to be able to give back. And I've been reading books on like giving back, curing poverty and stuff. And really it's more effective to do it in a business sense and like trying to create a sustainable type of charity, because a big issue we have in trying to cure poverty is that us Westerners, we give money to these people, but it's really not working because that's not the most effective way and it's not sustainable. So you can give $1 million, but then in a year it's going to be all gone. So learning how to be really efficient in poverty, like alleviating poverty, is really important to me. So I want to be at that position by the time I'm 30 where I can like start working on that and like have that like my, if not number one thing, like my number two thing.
Love that. And again, the fact that you're already like introduced to a lot of these people are huge. I just put in the chat Poverty Inc. So have you guys gone overseas? Like how many of you have gone overseas and like actually served people that like had nothing? Okay. Let's make that a goal. One of the things that we were going to do it this year, but we couldn't. I'm going to get every single person on my team to do something either in the United States or overseas, but serve people that have nothing, because it totally changes your perspective. The people that it totally does. Like when I went to Guatemala and I like helped people create stoves and they were living in a mud hut and kids were playing with like this, I think, soccer ball. I just my whole perspective was changed, and I 100% agree. Like one of the reasons like I'm doing what I'm doing is I want to serve people, and like there's a lot of cool things out there. That the documentary that I put down was really big for me, and just like how we can better give and make sure that's sustainable. Also, John Noel, who is one of my mentors that I talked about, he's the largest orphanage in Africa. Like just random guy from Wisconsin has the largest orphanage in Africa. So it's just like he also helped me, like when they were doing that, they were thinking about sustainability and all those things. So it's just like really inspirational. How I'd answer your question is I would keep learning from random people. I would not try to focus on one person, because until it becomes like, this is what I want, you're in a stage where you continue to learn, but don't get caught up. And like, once you learn something, don't feel like you have to watch every Gary Vee document or vlog. Like for me, it was cool at first. And I'm like, okay, he says the same stuff. And that's fine. So I'm going to spend my time doing some other things. But like, I'm so glad I went through this journey of like learning from people like Grant and Dan Locke and all those people. It's like, you'll learn, but then also continue to up level. And you're going to get to a point where there's really nothing new under the sun. I'm not at that point, but like motivationally, there's so much good stuff out there. So then just start learning from other people and take good notes. But I would not beat yourself up. I would continue to learn from a lot of different people. And I think your goal is very attainable, by the way. I would encourage you to double that, $10,000 a month.
Okay.
Because it just, our mind thinks differently depending on the one thing that's what Grant Cardone says, just throw out big problems.
10x.
And so whether it is $10,000, if you think about that 10,000. So if you get below that and you only have 7, that's okay too, you know?
Yeah. So like, what you're saying is kind of see new things, be fine with that, trying to understand it a little bit, but don't get like caught up in like, I have to do it this way because this person said it. This person said this is the most effective way. Just try to learn different things, kind of get like the flavors of everything.
How old are you again?
I'm 18.
Okay. So until you're 25, you have 7 years to figure your life out, dude. Okay. And then you have 5 years to get you your $5,000 goal. Is just your goal right now should be to learn and to figure out what you want. And you're not going to know that right away. But like, if you really figure out like, this is what I want to do, and then become self-aware and be like, I really am terrible at learning how to prioritize. What are the top 10 books on priority? You know? So it's just like everything in life has like, if you look at things I've learned, like 2 or 3 years ago, I watched a lot of Gary Vee. I don't watch him anymore, not because I just have no purpose of watching him.
Because most of the same.
Yeah, and he's awesome, but it's like I'm watching people on helping me try to do management stuff and our stuff. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. I'm really proud of you.
Thanks.
I'm proud of all you guys on here.
Yeah, they're an amazing group. I think you would agree,
Yeah.
Caleb. And it's fun to work with them. I want to respect everyone's time. I think Ethan has his hand up, and so we'll do Ethan's question, and then when that's done and Caleb's done answering that question, Caleb, I'm sure you're okay giving them some contact info. And then
I just gave you my email, and please email me if you have any questions. And also, if you guys are on LinkedIn, if there's people I'm connected to that you want to be connected to, if I personally know them, I'll connect you with them.
Great. Yeah. So, he just put his email in the chat, so you can write that down. And Ethan, what you got?
Well, so that was actually left over from before. I forgot to lower my hand, so I don't have another question.
Okay.
So my bad. Sorry.
Trevor, you're putting me to sleep, dude. I want to just go to bed.
What? Anybody else maybe have a question?
If there was like one thing, I have a question. Sorry. Who?
No, go ahead, Kelly. I don't care.
No, okay, no. I just want the only one thing. I guess if you can tell your 20-year-old self, what would it be? I guess.
Don't care about what other people think of you. Cause like I still fall into this, but like when I was 15, 16, I cared so much about what other people thought of me. When I was 20, I cared a lot about what people thought of me and what my family thought of me. And that would be one thing. And then every one of you guys, I forgot to mention this in my story, but figure out how you learn. That's one of the best skills that you can get. Just figure out how you tick, how you learn, because we're all different. Like I still, reading is not the best form for me to learn. If I can listen to something twice, I pretty much have it memorized. So it's not that I'm stupid. It's just I don't learn the way that some people learn. So the two things is identity. I think we have an identity crisis on our hands in this country. And then number 2 is really figure out how you learn. And when you know who you are and you know how to hack life, you already have what you need to do what you could literally get into any space. Like I could get into any space, you guys, and be successful. It's just because I know who I am and I know how to learn. So that's a great question, by the way.
Chase, did you want to shoot yours out there real quick?
Yeah, sure. I suppose my final question here is, how did you get the people who know you, and I suppose like your closest family, how do you get them to support you? Like when you were, I don't know, like you say you were 20 something, when you went to like your parents, you're like, I'm gonna quit my high-paying job and go do this random business thing. Okay. How did you get them to support you with that?
So a couple things. I'm a super obsessive person. If you guys can't know, like if you can't see that, like I work all the time. Like this weekend, work the whole time. I've talked to Dan about this. It's not something I'm super proud of. It's just something that I love. And so they saw me at 16, 17 years old at Thanksgiving Day reading and studying because I just am so passionate about this. So number one, my parents have always been supportive, but when I decided to leave the bank, they both disagreed with me and they both recommended me staying at the bank because think about it, like I had it set. And being 21 years old, you know nothing. I looked like I'm 15. I know, like who would like it was kind of like a dumb thing on paper for me to do. And I just had a real big sense of like I have nothing to lose being young. Like if I had a family and kids and a mortgage, talk to Dan. There's more to lose for him than you. And so for me, I just, number one, I just did the risk analysis in my head. And number two, I just really knew who I was. And I just promised myself that I wouldn't regret anything in my life. And so like, I just was like, I have to do this because I would regret not doing it. And so I'm not telling you that like, that's the thing is like, I would not recommend most people do what I did, but I just like, for me, I just had the mechanism of being able to make decisions. And I knew if I looked back on this time, I would regret not trying. And looking back, it took a while. And if I had a family, I wouldn't be able to do it. Because when I was 21 years old, I still stayed at home, by the way. I helped people with their money while living at home. And I did that because that was the wise thing to do financially. And the first year was rough. And I'm living my life today because I put in the time. And so that's why I'm such a huge fan of like having that mindset young, where you might not have to take a risky move, but there will be a time in your life that you'll need to say yes to something that scares you a little bit. And in 100 years, we'll all be dead.
All right, Caleb, I want to thank you for your time. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I thank you. I know you talked about how busy you are. We know you're busy, but to take the time and just give these guys some words of advice and some wisdom and some tips, answer their questions, much appreciated.
Yep.
Thanks so much. And I personally hope that we do get to meet each other in person sometime soon.
Hi everyone, if you like this video and want to see more like it, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You should also go check out our website and Instagram, which are both linked below this video. Thanks again for watching. Now go and get your freak on.